Welcome, everyone, to the Best of Markham Podcast, brought to you by me, Igor Klibanov from FitnessSolutionsPlus.ca, your personal trainers for chronic conditions. Here with me today is Dr. Omar Abdulsatar, who I first met many years ago, who was an instructor at one of the courses I was taking. He's a chiropractor, a very, very good one at that, and now the clinic director of Runway Health. Omar, thank you so much for being here with us today. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Perfect. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I guess try to keep it brief so we don't bore anybody. But so initially, I'll kind of start like at the university level. So I initially went to York University for kinesiology and health science.
Same as me.
Yeah. So that was back in the day. I started in 2007. Graduated in 2011. So I kind of figured like with that education, it just wasn't enough to kind of really push your career in the right direction. I knew I had to do more. So obviously in the last year of sorry, I kind of skipped a little bit. Last year of university, you're prepping for what am I going to do next? Like, professional school, business, whatever the case might be. So ended up going to professional school. So ended up going to chiropractic college. So I did that in 2012, graduated in 2016. So I went to CMCC, the Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College, which is, I believe it's in North York.
Yeah.
So actually both York University and CMCC are both in New York. New York. I wish it was in New York, in North York. And during chiropractic college, you start to, I guess you're kind of in your early, mid, some people in their late 20s. So you start to mature at a level that's a lot higher than just in university. So obviously things are taken a little bit more seriously, and you're also specializing in something. Like that you're going to actually be getting a license and be doing an exact job essentially. Whereas in university, you finish a degree, but what type of job are you really, really going to be doing? At least with chiropractic college, okay, if all fails, I'm going to be a chiropractor, right? So, you have that license, which I feel like, in today's day and age, you need some sort of license or some sort of specialty to really make the money that you're hoping for, right? So, unfortunately, I feel like a lot of kids these days are going into university and God knows whatever degrees that they're doing these days, and they don't understand that the marketplace for them after they're done isn't what they think it's going to be, right? So I guess that's a big learning moment for most people. So anyways, finished chiropractic college. I worked as a chiropractor and as a manual therapy instructor in a course or a technique called Trigenics, which is how we met.
Yep.
So I did that from 2016 to about mid 2019, something like that, and learned a lot both as a professional, as a chiropractor, dealing with patients and whatnot, and then being an instructor. Obviously that kind of took me to the next level in regards to public speaking, confidence, and then also in marketing, because I was responsible for working on the marketing to make sure our courses were full, obviously. So we did courses in Canada, so in Toronto, and then we did them in Vancouver. We did them in the States as well. So I did courses in New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, New Jersey, probably a few other areas as well. That really opened up my eyes in regards to what's available, and then I started to kind of understand how the United States chiropractors operated, which were a lot more business savvy than we have here. They're willing to invest more in their businesses and invest in themselves to actually push their businesses in the right direction. So that really helped out. In September of 2019, decided to kind of just quit everything and just open up my own clinic, which is something that I wanted to do. And that was my first clinic in Markham, the Markham location, Runway Health. And from 2019 to 2025, a lot of things have happened along the way, but that is my original baby, the original business, the one that I lost thousands and thousands of dollars in making mistakes, the one where, I was scrubbing the toilets at one point, and you really start to get an understanding as to like what is really required to keep an operation running and grow the operation. And we'll kind of get into that obviously more in this podcast, but and now in 2025, I have two locations of Runway Health, another business I'm working on, which we'll kind of get into maybe a little bit later. But in a nutshell, that's been my story probably since 2007 till now, and a lot of learning, a lot of experience, but at the same time, lots of confidence developed, lots of skill set developed. I feel like skill set's very important when you're running a business. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So very interesting how you went through just a basic undergrad into chiropractic college, um, and eventually into teaching courses. And you also got a little bit of a taste of entrepreneurship because you were responsible for the marketing of those courses. Um, and you found out you have a love for entrepreneurship. You opened up your own clinic and a second clinic as well. What do you like most about entrepreneurship and being a clinic director?
So it could be fun sometimes. And then at times it could be depressing. So basically what I realized very early on, number one, I was I guess I was young enough when I started my first real business where I invested my own money, got a bank loan, all the good stuff. I believe I was 28 years old. So I felt like I still had a lot of opportunity for risk.
Mhm.
That's why I started very early, because I feel like some people who start a bit later in life, they're not able to take as many risks. Life's a little bit more serious as you get older and whatnot. So I felt like I went in kind of like just completely go big or go home type of situation. So I actually got a big space. So I got about like 1,800 square feet. Most people in their first clinic are getting like, 1,000 to 1,200 square feet. And we were operating maybe 2 rooms out of the 8 that we have, but I knew that I wanted to grow into it.
Right.
Because a lot of people would be like, oh, just get a small little spot now and then get a bigger spot as you go along. And I'm like, it took me like 2 months to find this one spot, and I wasn't running a business. How am I going to find a second spot? The place is already running, and
Mhm.
it's not, I don't feel like a relocation like that is very easy.
Right.
Um, the thing that I like the most is now, maybe not so much in the first two, like the first 2 or 3 years are like a war zone, right?
Yeah.
Like you are nonstop thinking about your next move. It was my first business, so I was very impatient at the beginning. So I would try something. Oh, it's not working, and I only give it like a week's worth. It's not working. Let's change it, and then you start changing, and you seem like a crazy person. But it's basically you mean well, but the people around you are like, this guy is pretty crazy, like because you're so passionate about what you're trying to do, and it's like your baby, you're trying to make it grow.
Right.
But as you kind of get through those early stages, then you can start to slowly back off of like, being part of the day to day. You have staff that are doing the day to day, you have staff that are trained and doing the little things that you were doing at the beginning. And now you can be an actual business owner and kind of like moving the chess pieces, right?
Right.
Understanding how to build the business and not just work in the business,
Yeah.
right? So I think the biggest thing, like when I talk to friends who have their own businesses and whatnot, is they feel like it's a trap and they have to be there all the time. Everything relies on them. And I knew those horror stories before I started. So I kind of like went in with like obviously at the beginning you have to do a lot, but
Mhm.
I went in with a different mindset. My mindset wasn't how do I make the most amount of money at the beginning, and more so, how do I create a business, an operation that runs without me being in every single process and can actually run. And a lot of people end up, moving like closing their business, moving on. Some chiropractors as well or physiotherapists with their clinics, because they're like, at the end of the day, someone told me this specific quote. They're like, you don't want to open up a business where you buy yourself a job,
Yeah. Exactly.
right? So you invest all this money, you invest all these hours into building something, and it now is a job for you. So you invested, you paid for a higher and sorry, a more stressful job, right? So when I put that in mind, and sometimes I see people that are running their businesses and they're constantly telling me about like I have to be part of everything, like the place doesn't run without me, blah blah blah. And I go, well, clearly what you did was you created the clinic without systems, without standard operating procedures, without proper delegation, without proper training of staff, so that, yeah, it's 100% your fault that you're doing everything because that's how you built your clinic, right? Or that's how you built your business. So the thing that I like now is like I can kind of back up and now I can grow different things on the side. I can grow that specific business and actually build it properly and not feel like I'm working day to day and I'm trying to grow at the same time. I feel like that just like it gets overwhelming and it gets too much. And most people, when they hit that stage, they're just like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Mhm.
And a lot of people get into business and they go, this is not what I thought it was. I thought it was just going to be cashing in the checks. But, so it's like for me, it was always less about the money and more about building something that can provide me with cash flow, provide me with revenue, and can actually operate. I don't believe in operating 100% on its own, like set it and forget it. I don't really believe in that, but at least to a degree where it's manageable that, you're checking up on it, you can check up on it every day, but you're not on the ground actually physically working every single day. It leaves no opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
So I like new projects. I like growing projects. I like the behind the scenes work. I don't like being in front of the scenes too much. A lot of people think I do, but I don't. I can do it if need be, but I really like working behind the scenes and really pushing things in the right direction and fine-tuning little things and letting the operation run.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I see so many people who think they're entrepreneurs, but really they're freelancers. And there's a difference between a freelancer and an entrepreneur. The definition of a business is a profitable enterprise that runs without you. A freelancer needs the business needs a freelancer to run. That's a freelance business versus an entrepreneur. They could step away occasionally, they could check up on their business, but the business is still going to run. There's a lot more predictability in the business. It's not reliant on your brain power or your effort or time. So I completely relate to that. And funny that you mentioned about people who like physiotherapists, chiropractors who've bought themselves a job. Not only that, they also hate their boss, which is them.
Yeah.
So I totally get.
Well, you start hating everything, right? Because you can be so frustrated. And I've had moments of it early on. You become so frustrated because, for example, you can do a task that takes you 5 minutes that someone else is going to take 15, someone else is going to take 20, right? But you get so frustrated because you're doing everything. You're seeing the clients, you're doing everything, you're fixing all the mistakes, you're doing everything, and you start hating your job, which is actually your own business,
Yeah.
because you feel like it's just a nonstop. It's just nonstop. It'll never end. It'll never end. It'll never end. And a lot of people that hit that point actually never recover from it because it breaks you down, right? It breaks you down because you have to keep going. Like you can't just stop one day. Like you have to keep going. And it puts people in a very tough position if you haven't planned, delegated, trained, set up standard operating procedures, video tutorials on how to do things, train people properly, hire the right number of people. Like if you're doing 4 or 5 tasks, you can't expect a regular employee to do all that stuff. You
Yeah.
might need to hire, let's just say you were doing 5 main things. You might need to hire 3 people to do those 5 main things. That's just the cost of business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
And
I,
you have to
yeah,
you have to be okay with losing more at the beginning for the ultimate goal of consistency without you at the end. You
yeah,
can't have both. You simply can't have both.
yeah, absolutely. And when I was first starting out, the first 2, 3 years, I was making very little money, and so I had to do everything myself, even stuff I didn't like. Stuff like, marketing materials, stuff like things I just didn't want to do, like SEO, writing certain things. Um, then once business grew, I started to make money. I was able to delegate it to other people, and then I realized there's really only like 3 or 4 things that I really, really enjoy. One, I love public speaking. Two, I like writing articles and books. Three, I like face-to-face initial assessments. And four, I actually like personal training. And it took me getting down to only 2 or 3 hours per week of training clients to realize I miss this. I like this. But I'm doing it because I want to do it. My business would be just fine if I never train another client in my life. but I actually enjoy it. So everything that's not one of those four core tasks, I outsource because somebody else can do it better.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I
For
totally
sure.
get that.
You start to really understand that your time is valuable and you
Yes.
can't keep doing everything. It's not scalable. It's not
Yeah.
good for your mental health. It's not good for your physical health. It's a nonstop cycle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's why I wouldn't say I don't mind dealing with clients and seeing clients one-on-one, but for the last 2 years, it's been very, very minimal. Probably just like not taking new clients, just for my regulars, maybe once every 4, 5, 6 weeks, I'll open up a day for my regulars just to come see me.
Yeah.
It's kind of been less and less over the last few months, but it's simply because of time.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I can do my job very well, and if I'm given the opportunity, I don't mind it. It's just there's so much stuff that I'm working on, so much stuff in the background, and I really, really, really want to focus on growth and development. I just say those two words all the time: growth and development, growth and development. Most
Yeah.
people have no idea what I'm talking about, but like trying to explain to people that I'm a chiropractor, but I don't really see patients. It's
Yeah.
like it's a very difficult conversation, so I just avoid the conversation. So I really, really focus on growth and development, and I've been able to do that over the last, 4, 5, 6 years, and still growing. Still, I feel like it's never gonna end, and it's still growing. But the growth is what keeps me motivated because for me to go in and do my job every single day the same exact way, it's boring for me. So I prefer the unknown. I prefer the risk. I prefer trying new things over just doing the same thing over and over again. But it's not for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very much in the same boat as you. There's I get in my business, there's four marketing strategies that work extremely, extremely well. But at any given time, I'm running 3 to 5 marketing experiments because I'm always playing a game called Beat the Winner. I know what works for me. I know writing books works, writing a news, email marketing, public speaking, that works great. Um, but I'm always wondering, is there something that's going to work even better than that? Because I first started off with only public speaking, but email marketing beat public speaking. Running ads to email marketing was even better.
Keep in mind, though, the world has changed as you went along,
Yes, exactly. And I've
right? So
adapted.
you have to be willing to change with the trends of the world, right?
Yeah,
Like, and that's where a lot of old time business heads that were running small businesses get kind of annihilated. Is that, the new kids on the block are using all these new marketing techniques, and that's where they're finding people where, maybe public speaking is not as big as it used to be, right? Like,
yeah, yeah.
so
Now
times
it's
change. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I used to do 45, 50 speaking engagements per year. I can't do that anymore because people are working from home. There's no corporate, no, if I go to an office building, I'm going to have 2 people in my audience and that's it. I need 20, 30 people in my audience, but I've adapted. I'm still doing public speaking in a virtual format. Um, so it's always exciting that any of the marketing experiments could be the next big thing. More likely they're going to flop because they only have one success out of 25 to 40 failures. But it's always testing it out to figure out what's going to be the next big success.
Yeah.
Now you've alluded to it a little bit, but what are you working on right now that's exciting to you?
So originally, it's like the main clinic in Markham, fairly consistent at this point. So we probably have a overall staff of over 20 at this point. So that's a blend of chiropractors, physiotherapists, massage therapists, acupuncturists, clinical assistants, um, receptionist, manager, people working from home as well, like on different things. So I think an actual like internal staff is probably like 20 plus at this point.
Mhm.
So things, always need to improve, always need to work on things.
Yeah,
But I feel like we've hit a point where, it's not as much improvement is needed, like fine tuning little things, that type of stuff doesn't really give me much passion or motivation. So that one was built out in 2023, sorry, 2019. In 2023, we opened up another one in Newmarket. So that one's kind of in the growth phase as well. So that one is actually licensed out and not fully owned by me.
mhm.
So it's not owned by me, it's owned by the brand. It's licensed out to other people who are kind of running the show. I felt like that was a good way to kind of start a second location where, again, you have a lot of help. that you don't, there's people running the show so that you don't have to be involved in every little thing in the growth process. So
Right.
that's been running, I guess, for about a year and a half now, and things are moving in the right direction. The good thing is all the mistakes in the Markham location, we're not repeating the same mistakes, right? So, the marketing strategies are more fine-tuned. The website is way more fine-tuned. The search engine optimization is way more fine-tuned. And honestly, actually, what I found interesting was adding the new market location to the brand. It actually felt like it helped with the organic SEO in the Markham location as well. It kind of
Yeah.
gave the domain a little bit more authority, it seems like,
Mhm.
more traffic going to it. It gets a fair bit of traffic, actually. For some reason, it actually gets traffic in England, gets traffic in the US,
Cool.
which I'm not sure exactly why. There could be a reason why. There is a specialized form of treatment that we use for knee arthritis called knee decompression.
Mhm.
And that's not offered in too many places. So I actually have chiropractors who contact us from the States a lot of times saying like, hey, how do we do this treatment and blah, blah, blah. So sometimes I get on a call with them and kind of guide them in regards to what things they need to kind of do that type of treatment, because it's been really, really good for knee arthritis patients, probably better than any hands-on type of treatment that we do in the clinic.
Yeah.
But the another thing that I'm working on, which I'm pretty motivated about right now, is so as I was building my first clinic, you start to realize what is really important, like what tasks are very important on a day-to-day basis. And you think to yourself, if these tasks were done without my input and we're just like, let's call it outsourced. They were just done for you and it just appeared on your desk and it was all done. And every single day it was done. And one of the biggest things was insurance company calls. So obviously as a clinic, we're dealing with a lot of insurances.
Right.
And we tend to also do a lot of medical devices. So a lot of custom orthotics, knee braces, low back braces, compression socks, things like that, medical grade. And in most cases, we need to contact the insurance company, see what the patient is covered for, and then let the patient know, hey, you're covered for this. The cost of it is this much. Did you want to move forward with it, right? So kind of developed a good system for that. I tried to do it in-house, all these calls with my own admin staff. They just didn't do very well because they're dealing with clients in front of them. They're on hold with insurance companies. It just became really crazy.
Mhm.
So one of my buddies, who's also a chiropractor, owns a clinic in Yorkville. It's like, hey, why don't we actually just find someone from outside the office to do these? And this is their only task all day. And they're going to be doing this and they're going to be communicating with your staff, right? All electronic communication. There's a system set up for it. And what we did was we actually ended up hiring a few people, and because like the tasks just became overwhelming, so we hired a few people, trained them very well on how to do this task very, very well, trained them on how to communicate with our clinics, to the point where they never have to be on calls with our clinics, they never have to like send us emails. Everything is in a system electronically, and we're building a dashboard for it now as we speak. But it really helped our clinic in opening up the time for my admin to focus on what they need to do. And this task was being outsourced. So we fine-tuned it for about a year for our own clinics. And then we thought, hey, if this is really, really helpful for us, why don't we create this as a service that we can sell to other clinics, right? Because a lot of clinics need this.
Right.
So we ended up branding it. It's called Coverage Hero. We ended up branding it, hiring more people, learning how to sell it, building out a website, lead magnet techniques, lead generation techniques and whatnot. And just we've been running it since 2022, actually. And it just so happened last year, we started to really get into a rhythm in terms of how do we sell this product? Because this was a service, actually, service/product. So this service is not really available on the market. So it's like how you're explaining it to people, you can get jumbled in your own words, because it's not like, it's just like this service. Like, how you can just say, hey, like it's just like Ring Central, which is like a VoIP service or whatever, right? So it runs just like this. You can't use that anymore. You have to actually explain what the service is. And it took us like 2.5 years to just understand how to sell the service.
Right.
But now we're kind of like rolling to the point where now I feel like I need to hire someone to do the sales for me now. I was able to handle the sales and whatnot. So
Yeah.
handle someone commission-based to do the sales for me. and we're just growing that, growing it and growing it and growing it, and really, really understanding now how do I sell a service online as well, like because it's an online service, really.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not face to face. So that was and still is kind of like keeping me going in regards to entrepreneurship.
yeah,
There's still a lot more to learn, on how to grow clinics, but this was a new category that I didn't know like the ins and outs of. And you just go in there, you take risk, you figure it out, you lose money, and
yeah,
then you figure it out, and you lose more money and you figure it out, and then you start investing into it and
yeah.
kind of growing it. So I'm really happy I went in that direction because it kind of gave me that other world of how do I sell this type of situation, right? So
Yeah. There's almost always like a business within a business. There is the core business, which is chiropractic, but then you figure out this system that other chiropractors and other clinics can use, and you can market that side of things. For example, in my case, what's like yeah, like as I've already mentioned a few times on the podcast, what's really worked for me, what's worked really well for me is public speaking, writing books, writing articles, and email marketing. That's not something that's very common in the personal training industry. So I'm teaching that side of things to other personal trainers who are not competitive with me. So there's always a business within a business and extra opportunities out there.
yeah.
Um, Now you're clearly very passionate about your business, but what do you do in your free time outside of work?
Well, I work long hours, so there's not a crazy amount of free time. But I've also learned to, like, I'm not a 9 to 5 type of guy, right?
Yeah,
So I've kind of learned to do things in between my work. Like, I feel like work is always part of what I do.
yeah,
And I've learned to accept that it's just going to be, you're going to be working all the time, but how do I fit things in between, right? So, my biggest thing is I like to go to the gym, so weightlifting. And ever since I've been deep in business, I feel like the only time that really, really works for me is very early in the morning.
yeah,
And plus, I feel like getting your workout before you start your workday, your brain's already firing in the right direction.
yeah,
You feel like you're awake as soon as like you get on the computer desk or whatever you have to do, right?
yeah,
So working out is definitely big. So I try my best. Wake up at 6 in the morning, try to be at the gym by 6:30, 6:45. Do your thing, then have my breakfast, and then get the workday started. So working out's big. I used to play a lot of basketball when I was in like high school, university, so not much time to do that. But if I have some opportunities, I do love it. So I do. I would love to play more basketball, but there's not much time for it. But I kind of like pick and choose. But nowadays, I feel like I have to get my workout in, so there's less time for basketball. So
yeah.
um, I like watching movies. A lot of old school movies. I don't know, movies these days it's not I feel like they're not up to par in terms of the storytelling and the stories.
Yeah.
They're obviously better with the cinematography and the overall graphics and all that sort of stuff, but I don't know, I'm big into like the old school storytelling type of movies, and actually what I've been learning is Hollywood is just not the end all be all. So there's a lot of stuff that I've watched from other countries, like Spanish stuff,
Yeah.
stuff in
Korean
the
dramas.
UK. Oddly enough, some Swedish stuff, and
Yeah.
there's just so much more out there. I feel like the rest of the world is so much better at the storytelling part of things.
Right.
Really like the storytelling part. Um, I feel like North America tends to just like take from other parts of the world and then redoes it.
Yeah.
A lot of their stuff actually comes from other parts of the world, and then they just kind of redo it in their own way.
Right.
But yeah, I would say like weightlifting, basketball, watching movies. Um, yeah, but not much free time, but
Yeah.
trying
I,
to get
there's a saying that entrepreneurship is not a 9 to 5. Entrepreneurship,
it.
when I open my eyes to when I close my eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of in the same boat. Like I work 75 to 85 hours per week, like 365 days per year. On vacations, I work less, but I still work. I'm just checking my laptop here and there.
Yeah.
And since this is, after all, a Best of Markham podcast, what's your favorite business in Markham besides your own?
Um, so to be honest with you, I'm not like, even though my business is in Markham, I don't do too much in Markham. I initially grew up in North York and lived in Scarborough for a bit. Now I live in North York again. But there was one restaurant on the same strip as me. I think it used to be called Go and Get Burrito, but now it's called Binge Burrito.
I was there just last week.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah,
it's like literally like 3 minute walk from my clinic
yeah, yeah,
on the Main Street Markham strip. And the reason why I like it is because it's like a blend of fast food and not fast food because when you order is when they start prepping your stuff, right?
yeah,
So like when you go to Chipotle and like I like Mexican food, I like burritos, the naked bowls and all that sort of stuff. But I feel like when you go to Chipotle or you go to Burrito Boys or whatever, everything's already cooked, everything's already ready, and they're like, they just kind of like it's like buffet style and they just put it in a tray.
yeah.
But this one, they start cooking your meats when you get there. And I just feel like that's the right approach. Like I don't want something that's already made. I want it made, started. I want it made when I get there, right?
Yeah,
So
right in front
it
of
does
you.
take a little bit longer, and some people get upset. But it's like, but like, do you want fresh or do you want fast, right? Like, so it is what it
Can't
is.
have
So
both.
so yeah, that one's good. And then I went to the LA Fitness for a very long time. I don't go there anymore. The one in Markham. Um, Not the greatest gym in the world, but honestly, met a lot of people there. Actually, the gym is a great way to network and find clients and networking. Like you can
Yeah,
network with people in other industries. So I used to hit the sauna a lot after my workouts, and you just start hearing other people's stories and what they do, and you start learning stuff that you've never even heard about before, and you start realizing there's so much more than just the bubble that you live in and the
yeah,
bubble that you do every single day. So
yeah.
yeah, I guess that one probably the LA Fitness in Markham. I learned a lot there, made a lot of connections there. And then the spot by my clinic, it's called I guess you've been there, Binge Burrito.
Yeah.
A good spot to eat when I'm in need of food or when I'm at the Markham Clinic.
I can attest to that. I used to work at a very high-end a country club in Markham, and because I used to work out there as well. And after the workouts, I'd go to the sauna. You'd be surprised, or actually maybe you wouldn't be, at how many business deals got done between two naked old men just talking business in a sauna, more
It's so
than in
true.
boardrooms.
It's so true.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And lastly, how can our viewers and listeners get in touch with you?
I guess email would be the easiest. So email is my first name, Omar dot A, which is my middle initial, dot my last name, Abdulsatar at gmail.com. Most of the other contact information goes directly to the businesses.
Yeah.
But that's my email. So anyone who wants to network, has an idea, has any questions, whatnot. So it's Omar.A.Abdulsatar at gmail.com.
Perfect. And I'll have that in the description attached to this episode as well. Omar,
Perfect.
thank you so much. Fantastic interview. Very insightful.
Perfect. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure.